What's up, duelists? Back again with everybody's favorite deck, KFC. That's right, you heard me right. Carpath's famous control deck. But wait, there's a twist. Instead of Kuraz being the K in KFC, we've cut that motherfucker. He fucking sucks. We're canceling Kuraz today. Hashtag cancel Kuraz in the comments below. We're replacing it with Christia, of course. Best card in the format. This card is fucking disgusting, and we've just slammed it into this deck. This is sort of a jank Fairy, Debris Dragon, Ancient Gear Dragon, Gear Town, OTK brew. It's something that I put together because I read a comment on Discord that was like, just play KFC without Kuraz and it's better. And I was like, you know what? You're kind of right. Let's just play better cards. Anyway, sideboard is pretty straightforward. We have Shadow Mirror for Caius and Vayu. We've got Pulling the Rug for Monarchs, Triple Dust Tornado, Gores, Triple Snowman, Double Cyber Dragon. The reason the list is 43 cards is because I didn't really know what would be good and what wouldn't be good. And I also really don't want to draw Gear Dragons. Spoiler alert, I still draw them, but hey, I've got a couple replays for you guys. Let's go ahead and hop into those. First replay is against, not that one, is against Rob. Of course, I lose the rock, paper, scissors because, like, duh, right? So, yeah, we're going second. It's kind of tough. It's hard to tell, obviously, when you're going second what your opponents are playing. He leads off with set Deprison. It's kind of a weird sort of set, but it makes sense because, like, if I just have, like, Sangan attack, you're going to want to Deprison it, not Torrential it. So it kind of makes sense. He has a very trap-heavy hand, basically. Unfortunately for us, we draw our Gear Dragon, which is really unlucky. That being said, we can just set Dandelion and pass. So the reason I want to set Dandelion here is because it gives us the most options next turn. Usually set one pass isn't Lightsworn, so set one pass isn't going to have access to Aaron to punish us for this Dandelion. Set one pass could be a couple of other things, but we're not getting Caius here, so it's pretty safe to set the Dandelion this turn. Next turn, I can activate Gear Town, sack Dandelion for Gear Dragon, or I can go Gear Town into Gear Town for the Gear Dragon. If they have Torrential, I can get 2 tokens and then tribute one of those later for an Ancient Gear Dragon on the second Gear Town, which is kind of what I'm planning on doing because he just passes. So I'm like, okay, he passed the turn. I'm going to go Gear Town, set, special out, Ancient Gear Dragon, attack for 3k, pass the turn. He goes ahead and sets a Raikou and passes the turn, and I'm like, all right, what could it possibly be? What deck usually sets and passes? I mean, it could be a bunch of different stuff. If he had Torrential, he probably would have used it, so maybe he's just like Monster Light, and usually Monster Light decks don't play Raikou. Now, there's not really a great way to play around Raikou here, because I can't really make Stardust Dragon this turn, so I just attack into it. I mean, it's not going to get much better than this. Unfortunately, he gets an insanely lucky mill. He mills Vayu and Sirocco and Dark Grepher. So now he's threatening not only Armed Wing, but Dark Armed Dragon as well. So I'm like, great, what do I do here? It's kind of awkward. It's an awkward situation where I can't, like, commit my second Ancient Gear, even though I know that he can't stop it because he couldn't stop the first one. I know he can't stop it, but I can't commit it because he has access to Caius now, and he also has access to Dark Armed Dragon. So if I commit it, I'm literally just wasting a card. And I'm also burning my Dandelion, which is like a super important resource if he does have Dark Armed Dragon. So unfortunately, this lucky mill kind of throws us completely off. You'll also see this game why 3 Dark Grepher is super optimal. The fact that he has multiple is really good here for him. He activates Vayu, banishes both, summons the Armed Wing, attacks the Dandelion. We get 2 tokens, and he sets more back row and passes the turn. Of course, I don't really have a hand to deal with multiple back row. It's really unfortunate. I know he couldn't stop Ancient Gear Dragon when he only had the center set, so I know the center set can't stop Ancient Gear Dragon, but the other 2 probably can. So I just like decide to flip Gear Town, go for brain control, and then attack directly. Here he deprisons his Armed Wing, which basically 100% confirms that he has Burial from a different dimension in his hand. Otherwise, you just wouldn't deprison this. You just wait for me to sack it. Maybe he's thinking that he won't get another chance to use the deprison also, but at the same time, like, I don't know. You get where I'm going with this. Anyway, main phase 2, I summoned Debris Dragon. I thought for a long time here, making Ancient Fairy is a little bit better than making Stardust if this resolves. He thought really long here on oppressioning this. Had he oppressioned it, that would have been better for us, because then we would stick around with 2 tokens, and he would have to, like, Burial plus normal summon to clear both my tokens, and then we'd have Torrential for that. But he makes a smart play, waits on the oppression. We special summon the Dandelion, we go for Ancient Fairy, and he actually uses his Torrential here on the Dandy tokens, which just fucking owns us. So, yeah, we set Torrential, pass the turn. He picks up Heavy Storm. Can't really play that into active Gear Town. He summons Dark Grepher. Doesn't priority activate. And I thought about Torrentialing here, but I was like, man, I can just run this over with my, like, million other things. And if he activates anything else or summons anything else, then we can just win there. So he attacks me for 17, and I'm like, all right, cool. We draw Space Typhoon, so I'm thinking, okay, as long as his back row is, like, bottomless, we can actually get him pretty good here. We can go, like, Summon Angel, Crash Angel a bunch, drop Christia, of course, obviously a powerful line. We'll get access to DD Warrior Lady to clear the Greffer, make sure it's gone. And then Christia can add back one of our fallen angels, basically. And if he tries to oppression our Christia, because he thought for a while on the debris summon, which meant he definitely has royal oppression, I can chain Typhoon to the oppression. So I summon Shining Angel, I attack into Dark Greffer. He lets this go through, and I'm like, okay, fuck it. I might be winning this game. Nova Summoner attacks into Dark Greffer, take 300, special summon out the nothing, because he mirror forces. So he ended up having the second battle trap, which is really unlucky. It's really unfortunate. It's kind of like a 50-50 at this point, whether he has two bottomless or whether he has mirror force or another deep prison. He might not even play bottomless. I don't even know, but the fact of the matter is it's a 50-50 into his back row, slamming these recruiters, and I just lost a 50-50, and that's just going to be the case some percentage of the time. He attacks for 1700, can't really do anything about it. He sets another back row, it's going to be Burial, Chainable, etc. We pick up Herald of Orange, so I'm like, that's fucking awful. He attacks for 1700, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't beat this, basically. Him having the Greffers, absolutely nasty here, sets another Greffer, passes the turn. We pick up Herald of Orange. I'm like, fuck, I have to set that just to stay alive. I space my own Gear Town to force Royal Oppression, because I'm at the point where I can still pay for Royal Oppression in case his play involves like Flip Hamster or Special Dark Armed or something like that. Special Plague. I can still pay for Royal Oppression, so I want to force it now. I'm not really sure there was anything else I could have done here. I Space Typhoon the Gear Town. He chains it in response to the Space Typhoon, which means that he's a GOAT player. So that tells me a lot about what he knows about the format and everything else. It's a tiny interaction, because I'm like, you can't Royal Oppression Space Typhoon. And he says, oh, I'm just flipping it in response to the Space Typhoon. And I'm like, oh, okay, this guy plays GOAT format because he thinks he has to flip Royal Oppression. So for game 2, I know because he's a GOAT format player, I know what I can do to beat him. I know how he's going to play. It just like gives me a lot of information about what this guy knows and what this guy doesn't know. He Royal Oppressions the Gear Town. So even though that's really bad for me in this game, it gives me information for the next game, which is super important. I set Herald of Orange. He goes for Burial. We knew he had it because he deprisoned the Armed Wing. He goes for Heavy Storm now, and I'm like, I'm just fucking dead. He sacks for Caius. I Herald this. As long as he can summon another monster this turn, besides the value thing, like let's say this is a Raikou, we lose. If it's a hamster, we lose. He summons Gale, and it's another Dark Greffer, so we lose, pretty much. In any case, yeah, Dark Greffer is just insane pressure because of what it represents every single turn. It's a must-answer threat, and it's honestly one of the best draws in the deck. I don't know why people play less than 3. I keep thinking about that a lot. I'm like, that card's just insane. It's literally just the best card in the deck. But yeah, going into the next one. A lucky mill and some unfortunate back row stuff cost us that game, but I feel confident moving into this game that we should be able to beat him. Unfortunately, instead of drawing 1 Gear Dragon, we drew fucking 2 this game, which is fucking awful. But our hand's still good enough. We have Knock for Raikou, which was the #1 issue when dealing with Gadgetron Dragon last game. And then we also have like Shining Angel, which can deal with most resolved threats, as well as Debris Dandy, which is pretty good way of making Gadgetron Dragon live. So I set Dandy pass. He goes Allure, banishes Sirocco, and then I think he... What does he do this turn? He normals Greffer, and then he activates Greffer. Pitches Sirocco, sends Vayu. Now he should just summon both, but... Yeah, I feel like he should just summon both. I don't know why people don't do this. Maybe he's afraid of like Snowman Eater or something, but if you're afraid of Snowman Eater, you shouldn't attack with the Greffer. Like, you should bring out the Armed Wing and attack over that, so at least you're clearing the Snowman Eater. I don't really understand this. This is kind of just throwing away your Greffer. If you're going to not summon the Armed Wing, then you might as well not even attack with the Dark Greffer. That's just in my opinion, but here we are. It's also okay to save this resource, but like if I find back row ever, you would have been happier sticking it, and it's much more forcing sticking it. Plus, it means if this is a Dandelion, I can't tribute summon a Christia, I can't tribute summon an Ancient Gear Dragon next turn off of the Dandy tokens, which you can't really clear here. So he attacks into the Dandy, we get 2 tokens, and then passes the turn, and now I get to stick an Ancient Gear Dragon, which I wouldn't have been able to stick if he had just gone for his Armed Wing Vayu stuff. Like, play what the deck is supposed to play, you know what I mean? Like, get aggro, that's what you're supposed to do. Force my thing, and then make your brain control good. Anyway, a double tribute for Ancient Gear, attack over Dark Greffer, pass the turn after setting a Torrential Tribute. Here he goes for Charge of the Light Brigade. I'm like, that's going to be busted for me because I have Knock. And Knock is really good in this deck. I'm thinking about going up to a 2nd or 3rd copy even, just because Raikou is really annoying against Ancient Gear Dragon. It's really only one of the few ways that can interact with a resolved Ancient Gear Dragon. This card's pretty good once it hits the field. There are very few ways to clear it besides like DD Warrior Lady Crash, Honest, Raikou, Caius obviously, and then like Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, I guess, is another one. But once you have like outs to at least whatever your opponent is working with, then your Gear Dragons become so much better, as you can see here. Even the hard-drawn, hard-tributed one here is pretty good for us. He charges, he mills Plague, which is really good for him. So he's had some pretty lucky mills this game. But he's not really effectively able to use that Plague into Torrential Tribute. Here he just sets Raikou, sets Solomon, passes. I don't know about this play, but I guess it makes sense. You just want to get the Raikou to clear the Ancient Gear Dragon, and then Solemn to protect your Raikou, make sure it goes through. I go for knock, he Solemns, but this is going to be a very costly Solemn because now he's dropping just way too low in life points. He's not going to be able to sustain this board state. Shining Angel just represents another threat that he has to like slam his head into in order to even get anywhere with this game. We're at 8,000. He's just too low. He has to pop the Shining Angel. He's going to pop that, mill 3, and then we are just going to pass the turn. Here he special summons Chaos Sorcerer. He makes the GOAT format error of special summoning it in defense position. Usually want to special summon it in attack position, particularly in these matchups, because Debris Dragon makes Ancient Fairy. Ancient Fairy can run over a defense position Chaos Sorcerer. Can't run over an attack position one. There are other cards in this format like Cyber Dragon where if you special summon Chaos Sorcerer in defense position, it's actually pretty bad. Your opponent can run over it a lot easier. Aaron, of course, in the Lightsworn decks. There's a bunch of reasons. DD Warrior Lady attack into this. Obviously, I'm playing DD Warrior Ladies because I'm playing Shining Angel. So I can banish Chaos Sorcerer while taking less life points. It's just worse to summon it in defense position almost all of the time. Here he's going to banish the Ancient Gear Dragon. We just let this happen because it's in defense position. I can run it over with Ancient Fairy. Now he activates the value thing. And I'm like, alright, I'll take my 2-for-2 Torrential. He hasn't normaled yet, but he only has 3 cards. We're at 8,000. I don't think we can really die. Even Armageddon Knight, which is the worst case scenario, is still pretty okay for us. Here he sends value. He attacks for 14. Now, because he attacked for 14, it pretty much tells me he has Torrential Tribute, but that's fine, honestly, because that means he wasn't able to deal a lot of damage to us, which is good for us. It gives us more time. I can summon Shining Angel here. He's basically forced to use that Torrential, and we can pass. Now he has Raikou Brain, and I'm just like, alright, that's fine. We can deal with that. I'm just going to Debris Dragon blow up the field. And this is why you hold Debris Dragon until later in the game, because once you've run your opponent out of ways to interact with normal summon Debris Dragon, aka Solemn, Torrential, etc., Debris Dragon, Black Rose is a very solid threat. And now because we have Terraforming, the tokens can actually serve as tribute fodder for Ancient Gear Gadoltron Dragon. They could anyway, but now they can for sure because at most he can kill one of them with his value into whatever. I guess he could kill both if he stacks for Plague, but that's pretty bad for obvious reasons. We're going to Black Rose, blow up the field, get 2 tokens, and pass the turn. He finds Sangan, he summons it, he attacks a token. Now he should have summoned the Armor Master too to attack over both tokens to ensure that we don't have tribute fodder, but for some reason he doesn't. Not really sure why. In any case, Terraforming, grab Gear Town. We're going to go ahead and Gear Town, activate, sack the token for Ancient Gear Dragon, and attack over the Sangan. This is kind of rough for us because we are giving him a card in hand, but we're putting him to 1350, which is pretty close to dead, and he still needs to spend his whole hand to out Ancient Gear Gadoltron Dragon. Once he does that, we can use DD Warrior Lady to banish whatever he spent his whole hand on, and then Nova Summoner can be a lethal threat when he's at 1350. So, yeah, that's the game plan, more or less. He sets Raikou, sets Space Typhoon, passes the turn. We could pick up Archlord Christia. We summon DD Warrior Lady. He's basically forced to pop it with Raikou. And him setting the Space Typhoon is actually a huge misplay because then he can't stack it for Plague. Showing a little bit more that he's like probably more experienced with other formats, but not this one. But since he can no longer stack that for Plague, it cuts him off a vital resource, actually, that he needs in order to actually win this game. Here, he thinks for a really long time. He special summons Armor Master. He thought for like a solid 3 minutes here. He special summons Armor Master, but doesn't activate the value or anything. And then returns it. I give him a question mark when he returns it, and then he leaves the duel. Which, okay. Maybe he had to go. Maybe that's what it was. But it is a little bit frustrating to play a game to this point where it's like, I'm going to win game 2, like for sure. There's nothing he can do about this at this point. He'll summon Armor Master in defense. Next turn, I'll summon DD Warrior Lady, and then I'll just win the game. But it is a bit annoying that this was the outcome. I would have liked to play this game 3 because I think given the knowledge that I had about the player and given the knowledge that I have about their deck, I probably could have won game 3 as well. I think the way we had configured our deck for game 2 and game 3 would have been really nice, but he left for whatever reason. Who knows? Next match is up against Rizugami. Oh shit! Oh shit! Don't look! 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 That was a spoiler. That was a spoiler. You guys didn't see anything. You guys didn't see anything. All right, I win the rock paper scissors. like I deserve to, honestly, every single time. He's playing fairies, and we're playing worse fairies, which is funny. We go ahead and activate Lone Fire a couple of times. We bring out Titanial, and then we pass. I don't set Wind Blast because I have Herald already to defend my Titanial from shit like this, and I also have Heavy Storm, which I don't want to have to Heavy Storm my own Wind Blast. He activates DD Warrior Lady. We activate Herald of Orange Light. He doesn't respond with his own Herald of Orange Light, so it tells me he doesn't have it, basically. Here he sets 2, passes the turn. I immediately go to main phase and slam Heavy, but he wanted to use Dust Shoot before. His Dust Shoot is flipped before my Heavy, and it just lagged. So, yeah, we're going to resolve the Dust Shoot before the Heavy hits play. He's going to take Honest. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to Heavy. I'm just not going to use it, because there's no real reason for me to Heavy into 1 back row. I'll just trade Titanial 1 for 1. I attack for 2,800, and he doesn't have an out. So I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. I'll set my Wind Blast now. Probably shouldn't have, but I figured he's at 3,900. If he sets a monster, I can maybe Wind Blast, pitch my Mausoleum, and if I draw a monster, kill him the next turn. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Here he picks up Herald of Orange, which is frustrating because I have no way to predict that he's drawn this at this point. He sets a Shining Angel and passes. I summon DD Warrior Lady. I attack Shining Angel. I activate DD Warrior Lady. He heralds it. Now, because Shining Angel is marked for destruction in substep 4 and DD Warrior Lady activates in substep 6, Shining Angel will still be destroyed here, and he'll still get a Shining Angel effect. So I'm like, fuck, that sucks. He top-decked Herald of Orange at some point. That's still fine, though, because we do 2 for 1 him with our DD Warrior Lady. But at the same time, this Mausoleum is pretty bad, and this Heavy Storm no longer has any targets. So he's able to special summon out DD Warrior Lady. And the reason I attack into it with Titanial is because this is not getting better. Next turn, he can either switch the DD Warrior Lady to defense, or he can top deck Honest, which is really bad for me. So I'd rather just 1 for 1 trade and get the damage, because it's not going to become a better trade ever again. This is just the strength of DD Warrior Lady. It forces trades with like insane boss monsters. It's literally like one of the best cards in the format. And now my opponent's completely stable. Banishes both cards. Here he special summons Soul of Purity and Light. He makes a bit of an error. He doesn't banish DD Warrior Lady. I would have kept 2 fairies in the grave if I was him, because that means Soul plus another fairy. Like, let's say another Herald off the top can mean Christia is live. So I think that's a pretty big choke from him. He attacks for 2,000. We take 2,000. It's like, fuck. We find Torrential. I set Heavy, set Torrential. This is to blur Space Typhoon, and plus we know his Heavy is gone. So there's really no reason for me to not set both. He goes ahead and attacks for 2,000 again. Sets Book of Moon, passes the turn. We pick up Honest. We just have to pass again. He attacks for 2,000 again. And see, you can see here, Herald of Orange. Had he banished correctly, he would have been able to summon Synchro into Stardust. We're basically forced to Torrential on the summon of Herald of Orange Light. Then he can special Christia, and we 100% lose this game. So I think he absolutely choked this game on like a small, tiny error. In any case, he attacks for 2,000, passes turn. We pick up Shining Angel. I'm like, okay, we can stabilize here. We can stabilize here. We attack with Shining Angel. Go to Calc. I use Honest. He heralds the Honest. We take 900, and we can grab DD Warrior Lady, which is honestly stable for us. This is, again, the power of DD Warrior Lady. I think this card is like literally one of the best cards in the format, if not the best monster in the format, like standalone. I've said this a million times in videos in the past. It just completely puts you back in the game. From absolutely dying, I'm absolutely dying. Now I'm just like chilling. Like, what can he do? He has to attack into my DD Warrior Lady with this. I'll take 500. We'll banish both. That's fine. I have Torrential for the next summon. And as long as I find something at some point, I'll win this game. Because even a Gear Town at this point wins the game. I can Heavy, then Gear Town, Mausoleum, win the game. So I'm actually big chilling. Here, he gets a little antsy, summons his own DD Warrior Lady, procs our Torrential Tribute. He shouldn't have done that, honestly. He should have just attacked over it with DD Warrior Lady. But I understand the sees red and goes for lethal. Here we pick up Solemn Judgment, which is like best possible draw because that can stop any monster off the top. Unlike something like Bottomless Trap Hole or whatever, it can stop any monster. We set Solemn Judgment. Obviously, Gear Town would have been best possible, or Terraforming, which is like 6 auto win cards, but Solemn Judgment is like next best possible. Here he summons Honest. We're able to Solemn the Honest, and our next top deck is Trap Dust Shoot, which is really bad. But thankfully, his next top deck is Brain Control, which is equally as bad. And he likes to set it despite knowing about the Heavy Storm. Not that it really matters. If we draw Gear Town, I mean, we're winning the game anyway, and we do. So even though we kind of got unlucky on a top deck, he got unlucky on a top deck. He misplayed, and it cost him game 1, which is huge. It was all up to that turn where he banished the Fairy instead of the DD Warrior Lady with Soul of Purity and Light. You always have to be thinking about Christia with this deck. If you're not thinking about Christia, then you're just not playing the deck right. That's just how it goes. In any case, we flip Heavy. We go set, whatever, Gear Dragon, attack for whatever. Game 2, I bring in, I don't remember what I bring in. What's in my sideboard of this deck? Where's my fucking dueling book? What is this? Is this my dueling book? What's going on? Where is it? There it is. Against this deck, I brought in 3 Snowman, and then I brought in Mind Control and Knock. And that's it. And I sided out Lonefire, Titanial, and I sided out, I think, Sanguine and Foolish. Because Foolish gets a lot worse without Lonefire. Yeah, I think I sided out Sanguine, Foolish. Because Sanguine doesn't do anything in this matchup. It's just like a do-nothing that finds Shining Angel, but it's like a slower Shining Angel. I'd rather just set a Snowman and have the debris target ASAP. So, yeah. And Foolish gets a lot worse without the Lonefire. So that's how I sided in this matchup. God, why do I have like 18 tabs open? Which tab was I in? Is it this one? This one? Which one was it? Is this one? I don't even know. Anyway, this game, he starts off with Thunder King, which normally is pretty good against Terraforming specifically, but it's pretty bad against literally every other part of our deck, like Shining Angel, Christia, Honest, DD Warrior Lady, Card Trooper, the Debris Dragon stuff. So Thunder King, while it is good against specifically Terraforming, probably not the best in this matchup overall. And even if I do have, like, let's just say natty 2 field spells, Gear Town can't be negated by Thunder King because Thunder King can only negate inherent special summons, and Gear Dragon just runs this guy over. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad in this matchup in general. I would not recommend it. Or I would recommend maybe something like Dimensional Alchemist first, because if I go for Terraforming whatever, you have Honest to protect your Dimensional Alchemist, and you want to get this guy active as soon as possible because you have Return from the Different Dimension in your hand. I think my opponent just misread the situation, misread the deck matchup, misread exactly what he should be doing with that hand, which is pumping banished monsters into the banished zone for a return. So I think he just misunderstood the assignment, basically. He has a very good hand, and this is a hand that should beat our hand by all means. That being said, if he's not activating the cards in his hand, it's pretty awkward. Thunder King is better later in the game once I've burned more of my resources, as it can shut off top decks like Terraforming or Debris Dragon in the mid to late game. Anyway, he sets Dust Tornado, passes the turn. We pick up Shining Angel, so this hand's really good. We have a Live Herald, we have a DD Warrior Lady, we have Card Trooper to crash with Thunder King, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go Card Trooper, mill 3, we mill 3, we mill a Debris target, which is insane, turns on our Debris Dragon, so now our whole hand is live. We attack into the Thunder King. Card Trooper is a Debris target, but let's say it got deprisoned for whatever reason, we'd still have a live Debris Dragon. He's forced to use Honest here to protect his Thunder King, which is, honestly, no pun intended, not the best use of the Honest. I think you just take the L. I think you just hold the Honest, because the Honest is going to be your only piece of removal for getting over a resolved Gear Dragon. So I don't think you spend the Honest here. It's your only piece of removal. I think you just take the L and lose your Thunder King. And then next turn you summon Dialk and you go from there. Because I think it's more important that you get, Dialk going, again, with this hand, because you have Soul, you have all this other stuff to go on. I think getting Honest in the grave isn't necessarily that good. We get to draw a Gear Town, and now, whatever. I attacked with the Card Trooper, and this is where things start to get kind of dicey. This is where things start to get kind of, my opponent's getting frustrated, he's getting angry, but he's taking it out on me. So I say pass priority when I attack with the Card Trooper, meaning I'm not going to Book of Moon your Thunder King. If you want to Honest, you can Honest, whatever. And he says, dude, we aren't in Worlds, chill. I feel like my communication up until this point has been pretty basic. Like, I said, good luck, have fun. I said, does DD Warrior Lady kill Angel here? And then I said, you know this. We looked it up. He knows it. I said, this is in calc. When I used the Honest to clarify that in case he wanted to use his own Honest. I said, in case you want to use your own Honest, just clarifying. I said, misclick when I misclicked. I said 3x with Card Trooper, and I said pass priority on an attack declaration. I feel like all of this is necessary communication to be had. I try not to have unnecessary communication with people because I feel like, sometimes people don't want to have a conversation. They just want to duel. And if they want to have a conversation, sometimes I'll engage with them. Sometimes I just want to duel. That's fine. But all of the stuff that I've said up until this point is necessary communication. You do have to communicate with your opponent to a certain degree when playing the game because that's part of the game. Otherwise, you avoid miscommunications like, oh, I was going to book your Thunder King. I just was waiting for you to do something on attack declaration. You didn't clarify if we were moving to calc. I didn't clarify if we were moving to calc. So it's just me communicating what's happening in the damage step, which is super important in Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. Communication is a huge part of the game. And if you don't communicate, like, damage calc before discarding the Honest, like my opponent was doing, that's on you. If we are in a tournament and I say, oh, I was actually going to book, I was waiting for you to say pass into the battle step or pass after declaration, it's on you if I say I'm actually going to book your Thunder King there. Like, that's on you, and you're going to get owned for that because you didn't communicate. So as a tournament player, as a competitive player, you do need to communicate stuff like that. So yeah, Card Trooper dies, we draw into Gear Town, that kind of stuff. He attacks for 19. Our life total is actually getting kind of low. He says, dude, we aren't in Worlds, chill. And I hit him with a question mark because literally everything I've said is like necessary communication for the duel to happen in a functional manner. Like, it's not even like, I'm not even like asking about his day. I'm not saying like irrelevant shit. I'm just saying this is an important thing for me to say to him so that he knows we can move into the damage calc. In any case, and I said, I'm typing, but it's lagging. Like, just trying to explain like why I'm typing. I said pass priority before you played honest, so you know I don't have book or whatever. Communicating is what I'm doing. It's part of the game. I feel like that's like pretty straightforward. And he says, yeah, but I mean here shits are obvious and stuff like that just screams asshole. So apparently communicating means I'm an asshole, which is fucking hilarious because you'll see what happened next. In any case, we brain control as Thunder King. We take it. We summon Herald after attacking, of course. And I said it really isn't obvious because that's why we need to communicate. That's the whole point. I just say for sure because I don't really want to engage with this idiot. I synchro off into Yugioh Guardian in defense position. This is a technique that that ProStorm told me about, actually. Against fairies, making Yugioh Guardian in defense position is actually much better than making it in attack position because they can't crash their fairies into it, basically, and set up for a Christia. He's at a high enough life total where crashing into Yugioh Guardian is actually pretty good. He also can't get over it with Soul of Purity and Light as he falls to 2 lights in grave. He needs something like a DD Warrior Lady to get over this. He can't actively tutor it because he doesn't have a way to slam his recruiters. So we're actually kind of chilling because we have Herald to defend ourselves from DD Warrior Lady. So this Goyo is going to be pretty good here. In any case, at this point, the opponent leaves the duel, which is fucking insane because he's telling me I scream asshole for just communicating pass priority, but he leaves the duel in the middle of the match, and then I DM'd him and I said, nothing screams asshole more than you leaving the duel, GG's. And then he said, like, fuck you or some shit. It was kind of insane. And I was like, holy shit, man. It's just a game. In any case, I do want to walk through the next few turns here because our opponent's actually fine here. All he has to do is set return from the different dimension, and we can't really do anything. We don't have a way to clear his back row in our hand. We can't really afford to summon any of our monsters into a sweeper. If we summon Shining the Angel, it cuts off our Herald. If we summon DD Warrior Lady, we're out to Christia. If we summon Debris Dragon, we're just playing into a sweeper. So if he just sets return from the different dimension, not only can we not summon into it, but it's possible we don't even attack with the Yugioh Guardian because it's possible he just set Mirror Force. So like, it's possible he just initiates a stalemate, in which case on the following turn, he can special summon Soul of Purity and Light, banish Honest, banish Thunder King, return, bring them both back, bounce the Honest, and he has a way to clear the Yugioh Guardian, and the game continues as planned. So I think my opponent here honestly conceded because he is an idiot and bad and an angry person overall. When I'm mauled, it's because I get unlucky and it's deserved. But when my opponent mauls, it's because they're bad and cringe. So yeah, that's basically what's happening here. He left a game where he was actually totally fine and probably going to win. He made a bunch of errors one error in the first game that cost him the game, and then in this game he just like missequenced the opening, which is something that like less experienced players are going to whatever. But yeah, in any case, that's it for this deck. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture a full match. The big changes I'm considering maybe cutting Sangam from the main. I'm considering maybe cutting Foolish from the main and just going to 41 cards. I just want to brick on Gear Dragon as little as possible. The issue is I'm still bricking on the Gear Dragons a significant percentage of the time, and there's just really no way around that, unfortunately. And then for the sideboard, I do want to make a couple changes. I probably want to cut Mirror Force, and I think I want to cut one Dust Tornado, and I want to bring in some more Nox. I might leave the Mirror Force. I might just do something like this, so Nobleman, and bring it into this side. I think there is merit to playing both the Gear Town and the Fairy stuff, because I do think that the Fairy stuff is just like a really busted package you can just throw into a deck, and the Gear Town stuff is a really busted package you can just throw into a deck, and Mausoleum lets you unbrick Christia's Titanial and Gear Dragon, all of which give you like, you know, some significant leverage here and there. I do think overall this is probably weaker than the regular Fairy decks that you see because you don't get access to powerful interactive cards like Book of Moon, but this deck is faster in that it can summon a 3k beat stick and just kill the opponent. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace out.